I once truly died. And the strange thing is, I didn't want to come back. Have you ever wondered, what do we see when we die? Is there light behind that final curtain of darkness, or just eternal silence? My name is Michael Rayner, and this is the story of what happened to me on what would become the most important day of my life. It was a summer day in 1995, just 2 days before high school graduation. I was 17 years old, living in a small town near Lake Huron, Michigan. A quiet town, the kind of place where people believe time moves slowly, sadness doesn't stick, and death always feels like it belongs to someone else, somewhere far away. That morning, we were all getting ready for the end-of-year picnic. Sandwiches, radios, volleyball, laughter. Everything felt like life was opening its brightest door. I wasn't athletic. I didn't even like cold water, but my friends were out on a floating platform nearly a kilometer from shore, calling to me. "Michael, come on out here," they shouted. I hesitated. The lake water was freezing, and something in me, something quiet but sharp, told me I shouldn't do it. That today, it wasn't the day to push. But at 17, you don't step back. I ran, dove into the lake, started swimming. Every stroke was a battle. The cold pierced my skin like needles. My body began to tighten, but the platform kept getting closer. The laughter still echoed across the water. I didn't know then. That would be the last sound I ever heard with my physical ears. Suddenly, a violent cramp seized my lower abdomen. A sharp pain pierced through me, and my legs went numb. I began to flail, swallowing water, panicking. I struggled without thinking. My head broke the surface for a split second, and I waved my arms, begging for help. But from far off, my friends waved back, thinking I was joking. I sank again. That was the last time I ever saw the summer sky. Darkness began to close in. The water was cold, deeply cold, not the kind that chills your skin, but the kind that seeps into your soul. The deeper I went, the dimmer the light became, until finally, I felt my feet touch the bottom. I sat there, under the lake, and my body gave up. It didn't want to fight anymore. And in that moment, something strange happened. A voice came into my mind, not loud, not soft, but unmistakably clear, as if I were speaking to myself. "Michael, just rest for a moment." I froze. Who was that? And why was it so calm in the middle of my dying? I didn't respond. I didn't resist. I only knew one thing. I was no longer alone. Every cell in my body screamed for breath. I didn't want to die. But the voice continued. Just let go. Only for a moment. I didn't know who I was talking to, but something in me began to trust. So what if I did let go? What would happen? Does death come when we stop resisting? Or is surrender the door to a life more real than anything we've ever known? What happened next would forever change the way I see death. I was dying. Not the sudden kind of death, but the slow kind. Second by second, I felt my body surrendering to itself. My head was spinning. The light from the surface had become a faint blur, far beyond reach. I couldn't kick. I couldn't rise. My arms flailed wildly, as if I were fighting in space. My throat burned, and water poured into my lungs. I could taste the bitterness of the lake, of helplessness, of absolute fear. Every muscle clenched, then froze, then went limp. I thought I could scream inside my mind, but even my thoughts had become chaotic. I didn't want to die. Not today. Not like this. And then the voice returned, quiet but unwavering. "Michael, stop. Just rest." My final breath slipped away, carrying no goodbyes. I no longer felt the water. I no longer heard the frantic pounding of my heart. The only thing left was awareness. Not in my head, but somewhere broader, deeper. It felt as if I had passed through myself and landed in a nameless space. I began to speak to the voice, not with words, but with intent. I don't want to die. I'm too young. I have to graduate. I have to live. The voice responded gently, like a breeze, brushing through my mind. You don't have to do anything. Just let go. I started to get angry. No, I don't want to surrender. I'm someone who fights. I'm supposed to swim. I'm supposed to resist. If I let go, I'll die for real. Then the voice asked me something. It didn't raise its tone, but it stopped me cold. Are you living, or are you just afraid to die? That question cut through me like a blade, a place I had always avoided. Had I spent my life just pushing back against what I didn't understand? Had I been thrashing through life the same way I thrashed through that lake, terrified of being pulled under by fear, by pressure, by invisible expectations? I went still. No more denial, no more excuses. Only one question remained in me. If I let go, will it all end?
No, that's when everything begins. I didn't know if I believed it or not, but in one strange, suspended moment, I whispered inside my mind, so softly it felt like a vow. All right, I let go. And the very instant the word let go formed in my consciousness, I felt a gentle release, as if my soul had quietly slipped free from its physical shell. There was no more water, no more heaviness, no more pounding heartbeat. I floated, not with the current, but in a weightless space. I was somewhere above, and below me was a body slowly sinking toward the lake bottom. It was me, yet no longer me. Everything went utterly still, so still that even silence had a sound. But it wasn't the silence of death. It was a silence that felt alive. And that was only the beginning, because when I let go, I didn't just slip out of my body. I stepped into a place no words have ever been able to describe. A place without time, without self, without others. There was only one thing: pure, absolute presence. I had died. But it wasn't at all what I had imagined. There were no angels with white wings, no golden scales weighing my sins and virtues, no towering gates awaiting judgment. There was no hellfire, no punishment. What welcomed me instead was absolute emptiness. And yet, strangely, I wasn't afraid, because it wasn't a terrifying void. It was a stillness so gentle, it made me forget I had ever been someone. I had no name, no memory, no sense of a body. And yet, I was more aware than I ever had been. I wasn't seeing with my eyes, hearing with my ears, or thinking with my mind. I knew, through a kind of understanding beyond words. It was as if I were the space itself. No separation, no boundaries. I drifted through a field of soft light. It wasn't blinding, but warm in a way that felt deeply personal. The light came from nowhere, because it was everywhere, including inside me. Gentle currents moved around and through me, like waves of light brushing past one another. There was no color, yet I could feel colors. No sound, yet I felt as though I were being sung to a lullaby without words, where each note touched the center of my soul. How long was I there? There was no way to know. Time didn't exist. There were no hours or minutes, only a pure present moment stretching endlessly. And then I felt a presence. No shape, no gender, no voice, and yet it was so powerful, I dissolved inside it. Not someone is here, but everything is one. A complete sense of unity.
I didn't know what to call this presence. God? Universal consciousness? The original light? But I knew, deep in the very core of whatever I was, this was home. I didn't ask questions, but every question within me was somehow answered the instant it was formed. I had once wondered, what is the purpose of life? And there I received the answer not in words, but in pure feeling. Life is not about being perfect. It is about experiencing, about learning how to love, how to let go,
how to remember that we were never truly separated. I used to think I was just a small, isolated being in a vast, uncaring universe. But here, I knew I had never been alone. I was part of the whole. And that whole was pure, unconditional love, without condition, without limit, without loss. In a single moment, I felt the shattered pieces of my life, the times I had felt small, lonely, misunderstood, all held gently in a gaze so tender it dissolved every trace of shame. No one blamed me, no one accused me. There was only a whisper rising from the depths. You have always been enough. You just forgot. I didn't want to go back. I needed nothing more. But somehow, the journey wasn't over. Just when I thought I had found eternal peace, something happened that brought me face to face with one final question. If I were given the choice to stay forever, or return to a life filled with pain and struggle, what would I choose? And the answer wasn't what you might expect. I don't remember exactly when that moment began, because in that place there was no time. But I remember with stunning clarity the feeling it brought, the dissolving of all boundaries between me and the world. I was no longer a separate soul observing what was around me. I was what was around me. I was the light. I was the space. I was the soft, endless resonance humming through everything. And in that moment, I understood something that no language has ever been able to explain. I was part of everything, and everything was also me. I felt myself moving through layers of light, as if each layer was a different plane of existence. Each one carried a unique kind of knowing. The first was love. The second was the truth. The third was wisdom. The next held the memory of the cosmos. No one taught me, but I understood it all as if my soul had once known these things long before I was born and had simply forgotten for a while.
I was then drawn to a space with no shape, no structure, but with a deep sense of being, what I can only call a center of awareness. A place where every soul that has ever existed or ever will exist leaves a trace behind. A stream of light emerged and surrounded me with a presence so loving it brought me to stillness. It didn't speak a name, didn't use words, but I knew it was the higher self within me, or what many might call God. It didn't ask, "Did you live a good life?" Instead, it offered me a message that poured straight into my being. Do you remember who you are? And like a wave, memory returned. Not just the facts of my life, but the feelings. The flash of my childhood temper. The way my mother looked at me the night I had a fever. The times I felt invisible, meaningless. All of it came back at once. But this time, I didn't see those moments through the frightened eyes of a child. I saw them with a heart full of understanding. Every wound, every failure, every mistake, they hadn't come to shame me. They had come to teach me how to love myself. Not just the beautiful parts, but the broken ones too. Once again, I asked, why did I come to Earth? What is the purpose of the soul? The answer didn't come in words, but in a feeling, clear, undeniable. You came to remember who you are. You came to experience love through both joy and pain. You didn't come to win. You came to be yourself. I was still. There was no more doubt, no more resistance. I saw the people who had hurt me, and I saw their pain. I saw the friend who once mocked me in front of the class, and within his heart I felt his fear of being abandoned. I saw my mother, so often quiet, but now I saw her standing silently every night, watching over me as I slept. I saw myself as a young boy trying so hard to prove he was enough, now crying because he finally felt seen. And then I was asked one last question. Do you want to stay? I knew that if I stayed, there would be no more pain, no more confusion, only pure, eternal presence. But if I returned, I would forget much of what I had just seen.
I would carry scars. I would face old wounds and old limits, but I could also share this so that others might not fear the way I once did. I thought of my parents. I thought of my little sister. I thought of the future version of myself, someone who needed to live so this story could be told.
And I said, yes, I will go back. But going back wasn't like waking up from a dream. It was a fall, a collision between a world of light and a body on the edge of death. And the first thing I felt when I opened my eyes wasn't life. It was the memory of something I knew I would carry with me for the rest of my days. The first impact was pain, not the kind that comes from the body, but the jarring shock of a soul forced to shrink itself back into flesh. It felt like I had been soaring through endless fields of light, only to be slammed into a dark, narrow room. Everything spun. I felt the air rush into my lungs like a blade of cold steel. The hospital lights stabbed at my eyes. Machines beeped around me. Someone shouted, and I heard my mother crying. They told me I had been pulled from the water, my heart stopped for over 3 minutes, and was brought back by a nurse who knew CPR. I don't remember how I was rescued. I don't know who saved me. But in that first moment of waking, I didn't feel gratitude. I felt empty. I wasn't the 17-year-old kid on a picnic anymore. I was someone else. Someone carrying something unnamed. A strange longing for a place no one believes is real. In the days that followed, people asked me again and again, "Are you okay? Did you see anything? Where were you?" I nodded, shook my head, smiled, but I said nothing. Not because I didn't want to, but because I had no words that could carry what I had just lived through. In many ways, I was still in between two worlds. I didn't tell anyone, not because I was afraid they'd think I was crazy, but because I was afraid I'd say it wrong, afraid I'd break something sacred that I had been allowed to touch. But the things I carried back, they began to change me. I no longer looked at people as strangers. I saw pain in their eyes, and I saw a part of myself in it. I no longer needed to argue or prove anything. I started learning how to listen, how to be still, how to forgive, not because someone deserved it, but because I no longer wanted to carry the weight. Every time I looked at a flower, or heard a child's laughter, or even the morning call of a bird, I felt something in me remember that I had once been in the place where all life begins, and that place is still here. I'm still Michael Rayner, but I'm no longer the teenage boy who feared death. I don't fear it anymore, because now I know death is not the end. It's the doorway that leads us home. Death isn't the enemy. It's an old friend, quietly reminding me to live each day more deeply, more honestly, more kindly. Life after a near-death experience isn't the peaceful new beginning you read about in novels. In truth, it's more like being asked to relive your life, but with a heart that no longer fits the world you once knew. I went back to school, smiled, laughed, and moved with the rhythm of youth. But deep down, I was someone who had seen what no one else around me had seen. No one understood, and no one needed to. I didn't blame them. I just knew I was now living between two worlds. There were times I wished I could forget, just to blend back in, to stop waking in the middle of the night with a longing for a place no one else believed was real. But once light passes through the soul, it never lets you sleep the same way again, and I knew I couldn't stay silent forever. A few years later, I began to write, not to convince anyone to believe me, but to keep the memory from fading. I wrote about the light, about the cold at the bottom of the lake, about the gentleness in that voice, and about the moment I realized love isn't something we need to search for. It's always been there, just waiting for us to remember. I met others, too, people who had also crossed the veil. And though every story was different in detail, they all carried the same feeling, the same quiet truth. Coming back isn't the end. It's an invitation. An invitation to live more truly, love more deeply, and let go more freely. I used to think I survived in order to finish an unfinished life. But as time went on, I began to understand I didn't come back because my story was incomplete. I came back because someone else's was about to begin. Somewhere, someone is struggling between holding on and letting go. And maybe, just maybe, my story could be the smallest thread that helps them hang on. This is no longer just my story. It's the story of all of us humans walking through this world with scarred hearts, still aching to love and be loved.
You ask what I learned from dying. I won't tell you what to believe, but I hope you'll remember this. You were not alone. You were not insignificant. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You have always been part of something greater, gentler, and more sacred than anything you've ever imagined. You just have to remember. I used to think letting go was giving up, but letting go is what saved me. I used to think life was about control. Now I know life is about trust. I used to fear I wasn't enough. Now I know I have always been enough. And if you find yourself in the darkest place, where you feel like there's no way out, where you feel yourself slipping, I just want to tell you this. Let go. Not to give up, but so that you can be held. If you're still reading this, maybe you're searching for something deeper. Not an answer, but a confirmation that you're not crazy, that your soul is real, that this life has meaning. And if I were allowed to return for one reason only, it would be to tell you this. You have never been disconnected from the divine. You only need to pause, listen, and remember. That day, I thought I had died. It was the day I truly began to live.